Okay, so in looking at Unit 4, so first of all, fish, birds, and bats are quite common topics for GAMSAT biology. I'm sure you thought it would be mostly human biology, but these are very common topics. And it has nothing to do with the animals, has very, very little to do with understanding physiology or anatomy. It really has to do with graph interpretation and understanding. So looking at this, they talk about a top sustainable speed, and they give you that speed, and they describe it as being as fast as possible without going into oxygen debt, which means too much anaerobic respiration or any significant amount. Okay, so then there's the graphs, and in looking at the graph, figure 1A, part A, the left part of the graph. So this graph is being done at 15 degrees Celsius, we are told. We look at the uptake of oxygen on the y-axis, so always when you look at graphs, look at how they describe the graph, of course, and look at the x and y axis and the units. The units are very important because often it's the units that are going to get you some sort of answer, either because you need to look at the area under the graph or the slope or something else. But these are, typically you have to look at the x and y axis, and you see that there are two x axes here and one y axis. And then we look at the part B, and they describe line 5 is the TSS, which is the top sustainable speed, and that graph 1 is a speed at 0. So, of course, in the back of our minds, we can, may or may not be important, but we would remember that line 1 is a control group, and the other lines are. And then at the bottom, it says, it has a little note that section, and you should note that more often than not, in the note that section is information that is required to answer at least one of the questions correctly. So it talks about the oxygen uptake, and again, the information rest in line 5. Okay. So question 12. For figure 1A, oxygen uptake is increased with speed. Yes, I think we could agree that in figure 1A, as speed increases, we see that there's an exponential increase in the uptake of oxygen. And just playing with the back of your mind, had that been the log of uptake of oxygen, what would be the shape of that curve in figure 1A? Anybody? So if we had on the y-axis the logarithm of uptake of oxygen, because this is the type of question that they could ask. They did not ask in this particular one, but they like to have logarithms in graphs as well. They didn't do any in this particular exam, but they have it relatively often. So the logarithm of an exponential curve would be a straight line. So we would expect a straight line with a positive slope if it had been the logarithm of the uptake of oxygen. Okay, so the question though for question 12, oxygen uptake is increased with speed because, okay, so A says water temperature change. Now, the change in water temperature does occur, but that occurs in figure 1B, and you can see the temperature changing along the x-axis. But for figure 1A, the experiment was done at 15 degrees Celsius, meaning the temperature never changed. So that would be incorrect. And then for answer choice B, it says the fish used anaerobic respiration. Well, Actually, point M in the graph, we are told, is the TSS. We're told that in the third paragraph in the passage, that point M is the TSS. So TSS is the top sustainable speed, and anaerobic respiration only occurs after that. So we have no information about what occurs after M. So answer choice B is incorrect. So the 12C says the metabolic rate of the fish change. Well, we expect that, you know, in your own personal experience, if you run faster, you're going to breathe heavier. And why are you breathing heavier when you run faster? It's because your metabolic activity increases, and you need more oxygen to burn calories. So that's why, you know, and so we expect that the oxygen uptake increases with speed because the metabolic rate of the fish changed. In fact, the metabolic rate of the fish increased, more specifically, but they love to put a little bit of ambiguity there to see if you can deal with it. But it is consistent with answer choice C. And answer choice D, gas exchange occurred at organs other than the gills. Well, I mean, gas exchange may or may not occur at organs other than gills, but we don't have any information about that. We don't know, we don't have any additional information in order to confirm that. We can't say that based on figure 1A, that's for sure. Okay, so that's 12C. So 13, according to figure 1A, which one of the following is the best estimate? How many milligrams of oxygen is taken up 5 minutes by 100 grams? Okay. Dimensional analysis is very important for the GAMSAT. It will, probably be able to get you dimensional analysis is important for the GAMSAT. It'll probably be able to get you somewhere between 5 and 10 questions overall in all the different section 3. And that's just means you're paying attention to units. So there's nothing you can do to study this in advance other than to practice. So looking at salmon swimming at 60 centimeters per second. And so we look based on figure 1A. We're looking for the what is the uptake of oxygen. So the uptake of oxygen, looking at that, is probably around 470 or 80. But I'm looking at the answer choices, and the answer choices are far apart. Now, they're far apart for multiplication. When you're multiplying two things together and you have numbers like 1, 4, 100, that's really, really far apart. If it was adding things, then it depends. But because those numbers are so far apart, we can do some rough, some estimating. So I'm going to estimate the oxygen uptake at 500 milligrams per kilogram per hour. Okay, and I'm going to use the multiplication symbol like that. The asterisk is the multiplication symbol. And then we have the salmon is 100 grams. So that's 100 grams is equivalent to 0.1 kilograms. Now, no, I don't need to be provided an equation for this. I know that I can multiply milligrams per kilogram per hour times kilograms, because then the kilograms will be, I can cancel the kilograms and remove it. So that's what dimensional analysis is. It's knowing what you can multiply by what, by paying attention to the units. And then you know, should I be dividing this by kilograms or should I be multiplying by kilograms? I know I multiply it because I know I can cancel kilograms on both sides. So that's times 0.1. Now I need to multiply by hours. that will be able to, so I can cancel the hours. But I'm not given hours, I'm given minutes, 5 minutes. So I'm going to have to be able to take the minutes, convert it to hours, and then cancel the hours. So I have 5 minutes, and to convert 5 minutes to hours, I know some of you have automatically in your head multiply by 60 or divide by 60, but I think it's better that you have in your mind to do this by dimensional analysis, being very careful as to your units, and by doing this, you'll get more questions correct. So instead of trying to memorize what to do, by just paying attention to the units, that will help you a lot more. So we know that in 1 hour, there are 60 minutes. So 60 minutes in an hour. So you can put 1 hour divided by 60 minutes times anything you want, or you can have 60 minutes divided by 1 hour times anything you want. It doesn't change anything because it's the same as 1, because 1 hour is 60 minutes. So it's like multiplying something by 1. But we're doing this in order to take care of all those units. And then, of course, so there's no calculator. So in just looking at this, I have 0.1 times 500. 0.1 is 1/10, so that 500 turns to 50. And I have 50 times 5, that's 250. So I have 250 over 60, which is the same thing as saying 25 over 6. And 25 over 6, common denominator being 6, so I have 4 and 1/6. 4 and 1 over 6. So, okay, so that's the math, and that's in milligrams because everything else canceled. Minutes cancel, hours cancel, kilograms cancel. I'm left with milligrams. That's how you make sure that you did everything correct to get the proper answer. Okay, so then that's closest to the number 4, and so question 13, the answer is B. Now 14, which I found. Okay. So we're looking for the speed corresponding to line 3 in 1B. Okay, so first thing we look at, just to remind you that figure 1A is at 15 degrees. So figure 1A is at 15 degrees Celsius. Now, when you look at figure 1B, and you look at 15 degrees Celsius, and you look at line 3, that brings you to, let's say, around 230 milligrams per kilogram per hour in terms of uptake of oxygen. Okay. 250, something around there. Anyway, and then we go back to figure 1A, and in looking at that number around 230, 250, looking at figure 1A, we get to a speed of 40 centimeters per second. So 14 would be B. So here is some information provided from one diagram, going back to another diagram, then going back to the initial diagram to get the answer. So that's 14B. Now 15. Which means this goes off for line 3, the oxygen. Okay, so we see that the oxygen uptake 20 degrees Celsius is greater than 10 degrees Celsius. And the question is why? Well, if we look at the note that section, the note that section talks about the oxygen uptake and talks about a couple of issues. One is that increasing temperature means that there's less availability of the of oxygen, and the fish have to have a greater effort to flush water past the gills. So when we look at the answer choices, we see compared with the case of blah, 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 A, the fish swims faster. Well, that can't be true because we're already told that each one of these graphs, 1, 2, 3, 4, is at a constant speed. 1 is at 0, that's our control, and then 2 is at 1 speed, 3 is at another speed, 4 is another speed. So, so A doesn't make any sense. And B, anaerobic respiration is greater. Again, this is all below the top sustainable speed, TSS, that they talked about. So there is no anaerobic respiration, or no significant amount that's going on. And more energy is needed to achieve TSS. Again, line 3 is not related to the TSS. And then D, more energy is used for activities other than swimming. Okay, so in the note that section, the one thing that we were told is that more effort was used to flush water past the gills because of the decreased availability of oxygen and the heat in the warmer water and blah, blah, blah. So now the fish is doing something, another activity. Of course, the correct answer, D, does not specify flush water past gills, and is a little bit more ambiguous by saying activities other than swimming. Because if they said anything like flush or water or gills, then you would just find that place in the passage and then it would be too easy. So, yes, so the correct answer is couched there. I'm hoping that you have started to see that many of these answers you could have studied a biology textbook and you're not going to get these correct. And I really think it's important for people with non-science background to hear that statement, that because there are many science students that will struggle with these types of questions, whether or not they have full understanding of fish physiology is not really relevant. It's whether or not you can, of course, deal with some ambiguity, but do a lot of deduction, deductive reasoning, and inductive reasoning. Okay, so question 16. So they give an equation, Q metabolic rate at whatever degrees, and the metabolic rate at whatever degrees minus 10. So for line 5, and there's different letters on line 5, of figure 1b, Q10 is greatest when X is the temperature corresponding to. Okay. Now I'm going to look at A, and I'm going to use the equation metabolic rate at X degrees Celsius divided by metabolic rate at X minus 10. So at X degrees Celsius for L, I'm looking at L, and the metabolic rate at X, that's about 600. And then at minus 10, which would be at 0 degrees, it's about 500. So I'm approximating 600 divided by 500 would be the result of Q10. Now I'm going to look at B, and when I look at B, M, it's about 900 to 950, I guess, and then at minus 10 degrees, at 5 degrees, it is, let's say, about 550. Does everyone see where these numbers are coming from? So I'm just looking at graph 1b, and I'm looking at letter N now. And letter N, 1b, I look at the uptake of oxygen, and I see that it's just about 800. And at minus 10 degrees, the uptake from N, which is at 10, it's around 600. And now I'm looking at answer choice D. And P, it's about 800. And then at minus 10, so around 15, so 100. Okay, and the question is, where is Q10 greatest? So that's equal to 1 and 1/5. So it's about 1.2. Let's make it 1,000 over 600 to make it easier. And if it's 1,000 over 600, then that's 1 and 4/6. So that's 1 and 2/3 or 1.66. So that's 1.7. And then this is 800, so that's 600. That's 200, that's 2/6, 1/3, so that's 1.3. And then this is clearly less than 1. So where's my less than sign? There we go. That's less than 1. So our answer is B. Would give us the greatest value. So again, I don't believe that there is any particular background information that you would require for this. You just need to do a lot of problems like this to practice and to understand it. But if you wanted to learn about oxygen debt and glycolysis, you can find it in Bio 4.4 and 4.5, and respiration in Bio 12.